And we're live. Welcome back to the Better Than Bitcoin podcast, where I talk about the future of money. I'm your host, Jamie Dabaskis. So this week's been a crazy week for Bitcoin, so let's talk about it. For a little market recap, or not so little market recap, I'm slightly bearish on Bitcoin the next week or so. In the last episode of the podcast, I predicted Bitcoin to be in a bigger correction to the around 8,500-ish to 8,100-ish range. Since then, Bitcoin has rose to 10,300 and then promptly fell to 9,280. Now Bitcoin is barely touching the 10K resistance, and right as I'm speaking right now, Bitcoin is dropping. Let's move to this chart so you can see this stuff. So right here I have the daily chart up. Seems to be a clear downtrend line I have right here. Seems to be a clear downtrend line, and as long as this little, I wrote this script initially expecting it to retest this line I have right here, but it got around to 10K and then promptly just dumped afterwards. Wow, good timing, Jamie. Ideally, looking at the daily chart, there seems to be a clear downtrend line, which the price should stay under to make things simpler. Ideally, if we're in a bigger Elliott Wave 2 correction, as you can see my Elliott Wave count right here, you see this previous 5 waves up, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, but this is a bigger Wave 1, and we're looking further around the bottom of the Wave 2. So nothing really has much changed since the last analysis, because the last analysis I made when Bitcoin was around right here, or right here. So I still predicted a larger downtrend, and we're starting to make our way down lower as we speak. So ideally, if we're in a bigger wave 2, the price should stay below the previous high of 10,500, or this whole wave 2 idea gets invalidated, and we have to reset this count. Otherwise, if we stay below that previous high of 10,500, there is a higher chance that we see a correction possibly down to 8,225. 8,225 is the 50% retracement of this bigger wave 1 move. So this large box I have right here, this large box that ranges from 7,100 to 9,350, 60, 9,360, is the possible range that Elliott Wave 2 can land in. It is a big range. I know that's not really an analysis if you're trying to catch a small term move, but that's just how things are in Elliott Wave. So I have a blue box here on the screen showing the possible range for the Elliott Wave 2. The yellow lines are the Fibonacci retracement levels from the move from the 6430 down to up to 10,500. And the white lines I have out here are the Fibonacci extensions based on if the wave 2 ends at exactly 8,225, which is a 50% retracement. So the extensions will vary depending on where we end up in the wave 2 or where the wave 2 correction ends up ending. So yeah, Elliott Wave 2 typically retraces down 50% or 61.8% of the first wave. So usually we look in, I want to make another box right here, make it orange. So usually we look, that was not it. So usually we look in this range right here, 50% to 61.8%, but it can vary wildly from up to 23.6% to 78.6%. I'm going to delete that. So as you can see, Bitcoin's local low of 9,280 breaches this, let me zoom in. This little stick right here, this candlestick, breached this 23.6% retracement. So technically, it could be done in a very, very shallow correction. But if Bitcoin is done with a shallow wave 2 correction, then the third wave target I calculated to be around 15,800 to 16,800, because wave targets are based off of a range. As with the Elliott Wave principle, the deeper the correction, the higher the wave 3, 4, and 5 targets will be. So if this wave 2 ended at the 50% retracement at 8,225, then we can safely assume, let me zoom out, then we can safely assume our third wave to be around 17.6 to 16.2, 17,600 to 16,200. What else? Yeah. One thing I have to keep in mind is how complex the wave 2 can get. I'm just looking for, I'm not going to count this chop right here because it could be some complex flat pattern in Elliott wave, which I am not an expert in, so I cannot label that. I don't want to label that if I don't know what I'm doing, especially if I'm given an analysis. So I feel like I still have to say this, but I'm not an expert in Elliott wave principle, and I'm still technically learning. So, but what I do know is this whole move could be a possible wave too. I'm not going to dive deep into the micro counts because that can just be a pain in the neck. But yeah, anyways, looking at other indicators in the daily chart, my DeMark indicators just ended the buy countdown prematurely at a count of 8 instead of the complete count of 9 or 13. As you can see, the countdown means the buy countdown is in red and the sell countdown is in green. So as you can see, it completed a buy setup. It completed a buy setup. No, a sell setup, and now it's thinking it's a sell countdown right now as the 1, 2 right there. So it didn't fully complete a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 or all the way to 13 as a complete DeMark count, but it still is a long count. That is the worst description ever, Jamie. Oh my God. Anyways, so a sell countdown has already started with a current count of 2, but will be invalidated if the current daily candle closes below 96.10 or the next daily candle closes below 96.95, which right now it's at 97.54 because it just spiked downwards as I'm preparing to record this. How come all the price action happens as I'm writing the scripts for like the past 5 episodes? I don't know. Anyways, so another indicator I want to point out is the stochastic RSI on the daily chart is currently in the oversold level. Looking to get out of it, it's looking to go up. But one thing I want to point out is in strong trends, this indicator can be essentially maxed out by staying in an overbought or oversold level for substantial amounts of time. One example of this is when the pump to 10,500 back in October, this massive pump right here. Once this pump started to break down and go down lower below where the pump started, the stochastic RSI stayed in oversold levels for a 2.5 week range right here. That was a long time. Another thing that what this can be is what I like to call personally a quote-unquote refueling, where the stochastic RSI dips slightly back into the range, either from an overbought or oversold level to regain price momentum. One example of this refueling can be seen in a lot of places in this daily chart. As you can see, one example is right here. The RSI goes up into overbought levels and then dips back in to the range as almost like a refueling of the trend. And then it goes back up as you can see the price continued higher. Another example is this is right here, and right here, and right here. But in terms of continuing downtrends, as you can see the price dips down into the oversold level after this massive price drop, and then dips back into the range, and then dips back down to get down lower. So that's almost like a refueling of the trend. I'll just call it that. Anyways, I'm just gonna look closer into the 4-hour chart. So the daily chart and the 4-hour chart. Looking closer into the 4-hour chart, 2 things that are pointing out to me is that my DeMark indicators are what are used to show trend exhaustion, gave me a strong sell signal. Literally before it dumped, I swear it said sell. I swear it had like an arrow pointing down, but right before it dumped. So it gave me a strong sell signal, and that the stochastic RSI, which is used to show if an asset is overbought or oversold, is in the overbought region. So if you didn't listen or follow along to my logic in the past 10 minutes, here's a quick summary. As long as Bitcoin doesn't break above this previous high of 10,500, Bitcoin can see new local lows, hopefully down to the 50% retracement to the 61.8% retracement. Let me go back into the daily. So as long as price doesn't breach this level up here, 10,500, it has a higher chance of going down further to typically the 82.25 or 77.61. Also, if Bitcoin breaks above this little small trend line that I have set up, further analysis will be required to see if Bitcoin will retest the 10,500 level or not. So that is all for episode 18 of the Better Than Bitcoin podcast. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe. Follow me on Twitter at JaneDabauskas. I'll throw that up on the screen somewhere. And since I made a new post on my Instagram today, I went to DC to get some new profile pictures and to get a LinkedIn profile picture, so I look nice. Since I made a new post on Instagram, go follow me on Instagram at jamie.dabauskas. I'll throw that up on the screen somewhere as well. And peace out.